Good day, everyone. For this 13th episode of this derivative house series, we will go on to talk about the 12 hidden facets or phases of the 12th astrological house. And just like previous episodes of this series, amongst other content that I produce for my members, you can actually gain early access to this episode first before it actually gets premiered to the public later on. And for the details on how to join this YouTube channel as a member, you may want to click on the URL in the description box below in order to read about the tiers that I've designed for my channel. And there's only 2 tiers for now, the Cosmic Weavers, and then the upper tier will be the Cosmic Lighters. And before I forget, I'll just like to shout out to Jessica Talamantes, who's a member of this YouTube channel as a person who subscribed to my Cosmic Lighters tier. And if you want to support my work as well, in other ways, you may want to consider dropping a super thanks, in which the button is located in the bottom right-hand side of this video that you are watching. So without further ado, now let's look at the 12 hidden phases or facets of the 12th astrological house. And if we start off from the 12th house itself, this basically represents the first divisional house from the 12th. And that's because we start from the area of concern being the 12th house itself. So the first divisional house is the house itself. So it's the first from the 12th. This is what we are trying to combine in meaning. So the first from the 12th, in order to end up with the 12th house as the resultant house, basically means that it may be creating a persona based on your dreams, fears, and also secrets. Another variation of this meaning can be the condition of one's own behind-the-scenes or clandestine associations. This is very much the 12th house domain in its core essence. And this may also be talking about one's personality expresses itself best when one dreams, sleeps, meditates, prays, involve oneself in charity, or something that's unconditional in nature. Spiritual pursuits is also a 12th house domain theme. And 12th house can also be spending time alone in solitude. And 12th house also rules bed pleasures as well. And a variation of this meaning, first from the 12th, can also be that one's approach is to behave as if one is an escape artist. This can also be talking about one who actually ghosts other people a lot as well. And that's their is their main mode of operation. This can also be talking about self-awareness comes through when one comes to terms with one's own fears, family secrets, and the capability to embrace solitude as well. And the 12th house, first from the 12th, that is, it can also be that one's life path is one that belongs to a private investigator or a secret service agent. Very secretive in nature. That's what the 12th house embodies. And if we actually move on to begin with our area of concern being the 11th house, this is the second or 2 divisional houses away from the 12th. So the second from the 11th, this is what we are trying to delineate. And this can be talking about family friends being part of our social network circle. I think I've mentioned in earlier episodes that the second house or 2 divisional houses away can represent a family friend, because friend is actually indicated by the 11th house. And where does the family come from? And this is 4 divisional houses away. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the second house is the 4th from the 11th, which can represent a family friend. So we are trying to delineate the combination of 2nd from the 11th. So hence I formulated the sentence as, family friends are part of our social network, 2nd from the 11th. Also, a more direct way of delineating 2nd from the 11th can be earning a living through group or institutional involvements, and also affiliations as well. Fiscal safety and safety net comes via having a wide circle of friends or audience. 2nd from the 11th, it also can literally mean the phrase safety in numbers as well. And last but not least, this can be talking about feeling physically secure depends upon meeting one's long-term goals and dreams or aspirations. And if we actually move on to the next house, which is the 10th, so our area of concern starts from the 10th house, and this is 3 divisional houses away to reach the resultant house we want, which is the 12th. So 3rd from the 10th. This can be talking about the environment surrounding one's professional social scene, because that's what the 10th house is about, one's professional social scene. This can also be this can also mean gathering information for one's own professional vocation or career and its related endeavors. One's communication style is professional and status conscious in nature, 3rd from the 10th. And this can also be one talks a lot about one's glory days, fame and achievements. And we all know someone who actually does that quite a bit. So you may want to look at their 12th house, which is the 3rd from the 10th. This may also be talking about one's capacity to write, teach, speak, and converse that can derive awards and recognitions as a result. And last but not least, 3rd from the 10th, this can also describe relatives from the maternal parents' end, because anything that's 3 divisional houses or 3rd divisional house away from something can represent siblings, and from the 10th, which is our maternal figure growing up. So this can be talking about our maternal aunts and uncles, cousins, neighbors as well, also comes into the picture. And last but not least, this can also represent on a more psychological level the mentality and thinking patterns of one's own maternal parent growing up as well. And if we actually move on to talk about our area of concern starting from the 9th house, this is 4 divisional houses away to reach the resultant house, which is the 12th, what we want. So the combination here will be the 4th from the 9th. This represents familial relationships, cultural inheritances, and family traditions is somehow linked to serve the broadening of one's own horizons or the purpose of oneself. So a variation of this can be family traditions play a part in determining what one's belief system is. One's home life affects one's ability to travel and have foreign experiences or interact with foreigners. It can also reflect the parental figures' belief systems. In this case, is the paternal figure or the fatherly figure, and the associated dogma that comes with it as well. Because anything that starts from the 9th house, yes, it can talk about one's belief system and also religious inclinations and associations and affiliations as well, but it also can represent one's own dogma as a result. So I just want to repeat here, this may also reflect the paternal figure's belief systems, philosophy, and the associated dogma that comes with it as well. So last but not least, 4th from the 9th. This can represent defending one's homeland from foreign influences. Okay. The last one that I just mentioned is more mundane in nature. So moving on to the next one, with our area of concern being the 8th house. This is 5 divisional houses to reach the 12th. So it's the 5th from the 8th. What this represents is that creativity, personal self-expression, risk-taking, hobbies, romance, and interactions with children is somehow linked to emotional baggage, debt, taxes, bank loans, legacies, transformation, taboos, the occult, sexual and intimacy-related activities, and also depth interactions with others. So a variation of this can be creative self-expression, comes through sex and intimacy, deep interactions with other people, and also the occult and the taboo as well. Dramatic self-expression and theatricality are somehow expressed through releasing repressed emotions or experiencing some kind of peak in their psychology or emotional well-being. It also can be the 8th house domain, something that's peak in nature. And 5th from the 8th, this can be talking about relaxation. Is derived through practicing some form of tantra or kundalini practices. Kundalini practices are very much the 8th house kind of activity in its core essence, and also other intense sexual or intimacy practices or therapy for that matter. Last but not least, light-hearted intimacy is perhaps a way to transform and regenerate. All right. So if we actually move on to the 7th house as our starting point for our area of concern, this is 6 divisional houses away to reach the 12th. So it's the 6th from the 7th. This is what we're trying to combine the meanings here. 6 from the 7th, health consciousness, interactions with employees, hired help, co-workers or servants, daily routines and relationships with animals is somehow linked to partnerships, marriage, and equal relationships. There can also be some kind of controversy or polarization that's involved as well, because we're talking about from the 7th house. 7th house can be polarizing because it's the furthest house away from the ascendant or the 1st house. Okay. And controversy also comes from the 7th house as well. Just as a recap, I think I've mentioned about this in previous episodes. So 6 from the 7th, daily habits and routines revolve around partners and marriage. This may also represent the health and the servants, hired help, and co-workers of one's partner as well. Wanting relationships with employees and co-workers to be equal. 6 from the 7th. And there's also the meaning of the expectation that chores are to be distributed evenly or equally among people. Daily habits may also revolve around getting into confrontations or debates for that matter, because the 7th house can also be talking about debates. And 6 from the 7th, co-workers, employees, hired help, and servants may become one's significant partner. This can be on a personal level or on a business contractual level for that matter as well. And if we actually move on to the next one, in which we start off with our area of focus being the 6th house, this is 7 divisional houses away to hit the resultant house, which is the 12th, what we want for this episode. So it's the 7th from the 6th. This is what we are trying to combine here. So 7th from the 6th, cooperation, conflicts, debates, significant relationships, and negotiations is somehow linked to the need to be healthy, be employed, have a routine, and It involves interactions with animals as well. And of course, with the other people with our life that's very sixth house, like hired help, servants, co-workers, so on and so forth. So a variation of this can be treating marriage like a job or chore, or that business relationships revolve around animals, diet, fitness, and also daily routines or regimes. Marriage partners can become co-workers or employees. So it's the flip meaning of the previous combination we just mentioned. And last but not least, this can be talking about bringing one's own marriage attitude to the work environment. So these are the several different facets of the seventh from the sixth. So now let's move on to start with our area of concern being the fifth house. So this is 8 divisional houses away to hit the 12th. So it's the 8th from the 5th. So things like transformation, attitudes to life and death, other people's resources, one's own taxes, bank loans, one's own sex and intimacy life, and the desire to dig deep is somehow linked to creativity, personal creative self-expression, risk-taking, hobbies, romance, and interactions with children as well. And 8th from the 5th, this can describe the death and legacy of one's children in general, but the 5th house, this can mean particularly our firstborn child. That's our own flesh and blood. This can also be talking about needing depth, even in light-hearted romance situations. Emotional entanglements may compel one to take risks, or one may partake in risky sexual encounters as well. Intimacy and merging with another for mainly purposes of procreation. This may also describe someone having occult-related hobbies, or that inheritances affect one's ability to take on creative pursuits or endeavors as a result. And if we actually move on to the 4th house as the house of our area of focus or concern, this is 9 divisional houses away to reach the 12th. So it's the 9th from the 4th. So expanding horizons, traveling, publishing, and exploring foreign cultures and belief systems is somehow linked to emotional security, building a psychological foundation, familial relationships, roots, and heritage. So traveling and communicating with people of other cultures can influence one's core psychological makeup, or that gaining understanding about one's personal cultural heritage may involve immersing oneself in other people's culture, or hanging out with people that's got a very different upbringing than you growing up. This can also be the 9th house kind of vibe. 9th from the 4th, this can also be talking about hosting foreign exchange students and or foreign people in the comfort of one's own home as well. And last but not least, what I can think of on top of my head is that one's own purpose is defined by one's own early conditionings growing up. So if we actually move forward to the 3rd house, this is 10 divisional houses away to reach the 12th. So it's the 10th from the 3rd. This can be talking about the career, vocation, or profession of one's siblings, aunts and uncles, cousins, or neighbors. So all the people I described in the second half of this sentence are all 3rd house related people in our lives. 10th from the 3rd, building a reputation, gaining recognition for achievements and finding a vocation is somehow linked to communication, information gathering, and everyday interactions, and also depends on one's relationship with one's own immediate environment as well. So this can talk about some local neighborhood connections as well. So a variation of this meaning can be someone who's like an authority figure when one speaks, writes, and communicates, basically. And the 10th from the 3rd, this can be talking about the maternal figures, siblings, which is our aunts and uncles from the maternal side, her cousins, or her neighbors. On another level, this can be talking about one's career, vocation, and profession involves conferences, Skyping, phone calls, emailing, internet messaging, Facebook, Twitter, and also other short correspondence as well. One's career, vocation, and profession may also involve making connections around town, which is close to oneself, hence the immediate environment connection there with the 3rd house. Or one's career, vocation, and profession involves being a local celebrity of sorts as well. So this is the 10th from the 3rd in terms of meaning. Now let's move on to the 2nd house as our main area of focus. So this is 11 divisional houses away to reach the 12th. So it's the 11th from the 2nd. 11 from the 2nd. So connecting with like-minded people, attitudes to social reform, long-term hopes and dreams and aspirations, and also gaining friends and fans is somehow linked to financial stability, defining personal values, and also accumulating possessions, which is a form of object attachment. That is the domain of the 2nd house. So what I can think of here will be belonging as a member to a business association. This can be the 11th from the 2nd. And also, this can be talking about someone who's involved in groups that revolve around making money. This can also be talking about, on a more basic level, joining or listing on a platform like Fiverr or Upwork.com, etc. So someone who actually partakes on the platform of the gig economy of sorts. So we have reached the very last combination for this episode. And this time we're starting with our area of focus being the 1st house itself. So this is 12 divisional houses away to reach the 12th house. So it's the 12th from the 1st. 12th from the 1st. So releasing grief and sorrow, solitude, escapism, karma, misfortunes, psychic activity, and becoming aware of self-sabotage, be it externally or internally, is somehow linked to the image, persona, behavior, mannerisms, appearance, and also self-awareness as a result. So once sorrow, sadness, and grief are the first things that people notice about oneself, and experiences with psychic phenomena or the astral realm, because the 12th house can also be talking about astral stuff on top of the 8th house actually, and also the 4th house to a certain level. I just want to add this. These are the first things that people notice about oneself, or that this may shape one's approach to life or one's perception of the world. 12 from the 1st. This can also be talking about interactions with spirits, and meditation and also prayer affects how one perceives the world. So a slight variation of that meaning that I just mentioned. And this may also describe a ghostly countenance, is what one gives off upon first impression. On the more basic level, this can also be talking about one gives off that sleepy face, because anything that's 12 divisional houses away can represent like when a person is in the bedroom sleeping, the act of sleeping, that is. When it's combined with the first house, this is what you give off. So when people say you've got a sleepy face, this is actually coming from the 12th from the first. And 12 from the first, this can also be talking about wanting to merge with everything, because anything that's 12 house related, it has that oneness kind of vibe to it. 12 house or 12 divisional houses away can also represent losing one's boundaries as one approaches life. And last but not least, one is perhaps incarcerated, hospitalized, institutionalized, or is part of a welfare office or a social unit. Because anything that's 12 divisional houses away or the 12th house, this can represent a place such as a welfare office or a social unit of sorts. This is using the more mundane way of delineating the houses astrologically. So with this, I have talked about a lot of the hidden facets of the 12 astrological houses, going from the 1st to the 12th. So I hope that, well, together with the introduction, of course, so I hope that with these 13 episodes, there's so much more understanding of the other hidden facets or meanings as we go through our evolution. I have learned a lot myself actually by doing this 13-part series and committing to it, to finish it right to the end. So you will realize that some of my meanings are more than deriving from the secondary basis. Because what I have used here, like for example, 12 from the 1st or the 9th from the 4th, this is using the first level of derivative in terms of understanding a particular house. And then I'm sure that you have observed that in certain circumstances, I have further derived one part of the two using further derivatives. So you may want to experiment with that. And I'm sure that you will have a very fun journey with understanding the houses. And I have mentioned in my very first episode in the introduction that there are 144 different meanings to the 12 astrological houses, and this is what I have done. But if you have listened to me in detail, actually the astrological houses are infinite in meaning, depending how we piece together the derivatives into one cohesive sentence. Because I've brought in people in our lives such as our paternal great-grandfather or maternal great-grandmother, and our nieces and nephews, our sibling-in-laws, our stepchildren, our adopted children. All these people are further derived using the houses itself. So if you want to support my channel, please join as a YouTube member. You can find it, the URL. You can find the URL to join this YouTube channel as a member in the description box below. And of course, I am also accepting super thanks as well. So till next time, I've got other ideas cooking in the pipeline, and I can't wait to share with you guys. So take care for now.